And so there's something really beautiful in queer revolutionary stories and in queer dystopian stories. But there's also more than just collapse and bad news, right? Some of these books are also really heavy and really stressful to read. So there's a genre that has emerged that is one of my favorites that is either called solar punk or hope punk, kind of like steampunk, except really kind of interwoven with this radical climate futurism that is a combination of technology and hope and environmentalism and green space. Solar punk and hope punk paint a picture not just of a better world that is post apocalypse or has nothing to do with the apocalypse, but show slices of life in a world that is radically different. And it doesn't have to mean that every single thing is fixed, but it means that there is something better out there and we can see ourselves in that. It gives us the ability to exercise that muscle of not just viewing the world as a permanent downward slope, but that whatever happens, we can return to build something kinder, softer, more beautiful, even within the cracks of a really aggressive or hateful society. So Upright Women Wanted, for example, is an amazing story about non-binary revolutionary librarians in the wild, wild west. They basically run around distributing banned books, and it is an incredibly hope punk book. It is badass, it is fiery. The catchphrase of the book is "Fight the state, be a librarian," which I think is very accurate to present day as well. So it doesn't have to be that everything is perfect. It can be we can build something beautiful, even in a world that is oppressive. Monk and Robot is one of my all-time favorite duologies. The two books of A Psalm for the Wild-Built and A Prayer for the Crown-Shy are essentially about a world post-apocalypse. So there was a dramatic technology apocalypse. They were making all of these robots work in the factories, and one day the robots just walked off into the woods. And then they said, we needed to totally rethink the way we do technology and develop significant restrictions and built a solar punk society. And then a robot emerges from the woods to meet this non-binary T-monk and says, the robots decided we wanted to check on humans. How are you guys doing? What does humanity need? How have things been since the rift? And so they travel around talking to people about what it means to take a break and find peace and what humanity needs. I try to read that book at least once a year to slow me down. And it just reminds me that we can build something beautiful. Sometimes things might fall apart. Some systems might collapse and might have to be rebuilt in a totally different way. And solar punk inspires us to think about things totally differently. And then Light from Uncommon Stars is also just a personal favorite. Hopeful, warm, found family, which we're going to talk about a little more later. It's just this beautiful book about a trans femme violinist signing a deal with the devil. Also a donut shop, a romance plot line, and like deciding to be different, deciding to live differently. We can't possibly talk about queerness and queer books without talking about found family. And there's a reason this trope is so popular, but I think it's actually a little bit of a misnomer. I don't think these stories are found family as much as they are built family. And I have some fan art from one of my favorite series, The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. This is a fan art of the crew of a ship, that's going to make essentially a delivery. And most of the story is just about their journey from point A to point B. It's very slice of life, very cozy. And the people on this ship have chosen each other. They don't often get along. They're from a really wide range of cultures. They disagree, they argue, they step on each other's toes, they fall in love. They have built this really beautiful family because they chose to do that. They didn't just encounter it. And I think a lot of us really are drawn to found family stories with this feeling of like, I wish that I had that. I wish that I had this people, this community that loves each other so deeply and so truly. And one of the opportunities I want us to have of thinking about what science fiction really teaches us about how we survive right now is that we're not going to just encounter a perfect family, especially if we try to build a family that is completely homogenous, of all people from our own background, from our own community that exactly agree with every single thing we believe in really perfect ways. As a queer community, sometimes we hold a really, really unmountable high bar to each other to say, can you be a part of my found family? When we then go and read these books that often have tropes of the grumpy person who everyone disagrees with, and the person who's kind of a silly, lovable dope who doesn't know what's going on, and the person who's bossy, and the person who's really, really smart but really shy. These families choose each other, and they learn how to navigate their differences, and they learn how to love each other, and they build their families. They figure out how to communicate. We don't have to view found family as fiction.